we are good to go. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. There's like a whole celebrity thing happening in the corner. I am Dr. Barbara Logan Smith. I lead Equity and Belonging for Teach for America, and I'm really excited for us to be in this conversation. I come into this work as the granddaughter of sharecroppers and the daughter of educators and activists, so I've been involved and invested in the thing you see on the screen for a really long time. And today we have the opportunity to hear from two of our fearless leaders. Our CEO, Elisa Villanueva Beard, and our Chief Operating Officer, Jemina Bernard, are going to share some things about what it takes to create an enduring institution, to create the kind of sustainability and impact at scale over time, regardless of how things shift and change. And so we're going to get a chance to hear from them, but we've got 19 minutes, so we're going to get right to it. And I'd like to ask each of you, Elisa, Jemina, what brings you to this work? What leads you to want to make this kind of investment?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jemina Bernard, President and Chief Operating Officer at Teach for America.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. And I am a very proud African-American Puerto Rican woman who grew up in the South Bronx and went to a mix of public and private schools in New York City. And through my own experience, I know firsthand how much access to an excellent education made a difference in my life and in my career. And beyond my lived experiences, I know through the privilege of the work that I get to do that the same is true for many kids who look like me and who are growing up in communities that look like the one that I grew up in. And so it's as y'all know, it's what fuels me to be in this work. It's what fuels me to be in the business about partnering with our network of nearly 70,000 strong first-year, second-year teachers, our core members, our alumni, and our Ignite tutoring fellows, our virtual tutoring fellows, to do the same for kids, for hundreds and thousands of kids across 300 communities across the country.
All right, awesome. I'm Elisa Villanueva Beard. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. I'm the CEO of Teach for America. I'm a very proud 1998 Teach for America core member where I taught in South Phoenix for 3 years. I come from the Rio Grande Valley of South Texas on the Texas-Mexico border. My family's from Mexico. And so I was on a hot pursuit to be a lawyer in college. And then I met Teach for America, and then everything changed as I became obsessed with it. And then I met my students who had big dreams, were brilliant, wanted so much for themselves as their family did, and yet we saw all the barriers that were in their way. And I became committed and outraged and all in for kids, and I found my passion at the age of 22. And while we all know there's no singular solutions to this problem, there's many interventions that are needed, I have found now over 26 years doing this work that purpose-driven leadership that is all in for kids, no matter what, deeply matters to transform practice, policy, and culture. And so that's why I've stuck with Teach for America. I've been on staff for 23 years, my whole life. And I've been the CEO for 11. And some of you may have heard in January I announced that I will be transitioning out of my role in the next 12 to 18 months. And I'm really excited for Teach for America. I'm excited for me. I've run my best race, and I'm ready to hand off the baton to the next person. And looking forward to it all because we are building good momentum. I'm really proud of all the work we've done collectively.
Thank you both for that. I can tell you all that when you speak, it's very clear how committed and how convicted you are about Teach for America, and more importantly about children and making sure they're getting what they need. And y'all, I know them personally. I work with them and have worked with them over the course of nearly 10 years. And part of what brings me to the work and helps me stay energized is knowing that you truly are committed. It's not a thing you're saying for stage. It is the way that you engage all the time. And so I'm grateful to lead alongside you. But I'm really thoughtful that I started this work myself in the 90s, pre-cell phone, right? Like, we're now in the world of smartphones, but like when I started this work, that thing didn't exist. So we've gone from pre-cell phone to the time of not only into the digital age, but you can't walk 2 feet in this space without somebody saying AI to you, AI, you need AI, we got an AI. We also started this work with Gen X, and then moved to millennials, and then moved to Gen Z, and now are thinking about Gen Alpha. And in order for an organization to be able to do all of that, it has to evolve. Yeah. And it has to stay relevant during the midst of all the change that is required while making change itself. And so my question for you all is, how has Teach for America set itself up to be in this place where you've got more core members than ever, you've got more Ignite fellows, you've got more alumni in critical roles doing great things for kids? How have you managed to make it through and manage through so much change over time?
Well, I'll start. I want to start, Barbara, by sharing what hasn't changed about Teach for America. So for the alums in the house, the folks who are partners in the house, our vision statement of one day, all children will have the opportunity to attain an excellent education remains our North Star. We are all in for kids. We believe in every child that we teach, and we believe that the world needs to be different for every child to be able to learn, lead, and thrive. And that is our commitment and remains the center of our work. We also know that our contribution, which has now been going from over 3 decades, is talent. So what we contribute, many solutions are needed. We contribute exceptional, effective, diverse talent to this work. When there are hairy, big problems, we believe you just need to unleash and channel the energy of folks to go and be all in and create the innovations and change that is needed, alongside, of course, many others. We are now, as you now have heard a few times, 70,000 strong in this pursuit. I'm really proud that 57% of our incoming core members are teachers of color. I'm really proud that 45% are first-generation college students. And I'm really proud that now 10% of our incoming core members are what we call second-generation core members. They themselves were taught by TFA core members and have joined us. And I don't know what's more affirming in our work than having our own students say, I want to be part of that. And that's incredible. We continue to also have external rigorous studies that affirm that the work we do in classrooms is working, and we remain among the largest, most effective, and diverse provider of teachers in low-income communities and STEM teachers as well. That's where we are. Now, to exist for 35 years, you have to change, or there's no way for you to remain relevant. Like, it won't work. So we've been in the middle of that, and as we grapple with that, there's 2 big questions that we hold central: is how do we remain relevant to college students and folks early on in their career, because that's our bread and butter. And then second, how do we ensure that we're making the greatest impact possible, given all that we're learning and doing? And so on the first, we have had to modernize the way we work. It's pretty unrecognizable to any alums in the room on how we're training and supporting our teachers. And you should be happy about this, because everything has changed. We have digitized, our teachers have best-in-class resources, and we are committed to being on the cutting edge of training and supporting our teachers. We've also done things like innovating and understanding our core capabilities, finding talent, matching talent, developing talent, and applying it in different ways. You heard Jemina talk about the Ignite Fellowship. Barbara did too. These are undergrad tutors that we are unleashing to ensure that we're accelerating learning and creating connection belonging to in early literacy and middle school math. And then, by the way, this becomes an early engagement strategy into the core, and it's really working. So a lot of that is happening. Then on impact, as we were approaching our 30th year, we said, how do we ensure we're making our greatest contribution? And it had caused us to set a big 2030 goal. And that goal is holding us accountable to ensuring that we are doubling the number of students in communities where we work who are reaching key educational milestones that are an indication of a pathway to economic mobility and choice-filled lives. And this is actually a big disruption, because it causes us to have to work in partnership. No one can achieve that goal alone, not one organization. And so we are working in coalitions to make sure all this is adding up to something way bigger, to be a North Star to collective efforts for kids. And we are in 300 communities, you all, working. And so this allows us to be really locally responsive, but also take advantage of our national scale that we have across the country, and be able to codify best practices and evidence and learnings and feed them back into the field. And lastly, we created an R&D arm 5 years ago, our reinvention lab. I see our folks over there. But we knew that Teach for America had to be answering the question, like, what is the future of learning and how do we contribute? So this innovation hub is helping to codify learnings, feed that back into improving our program and the field. And so that's a bit about what we changed, but maybe you can talk more about how it's working and get a little bit more specific.
Yeah, and so even as we have continued to innovate to be relevant as we approach our 35th anniversary year, we continue to strengthen and evolve our core business, our bread and butter, as Elisa was saying. And so over the last couple of years, we completely retooled how we go after and recruit Gen Z to really be sensitive to, adapt, and evolve to meet their interests and their passions, and doing things like actually sending them where they want to go, because then they tend to stay longer and want to be in the work with us longer. And so that's just one example of some of how we're retooling, how we recruit our core members now. And y'all, it's working. So just this past fall, we grew, as y'all know, our incoming core by nearly 40%, and we are on track to grow again, to stay on this path of growth this coming year. Yeah, it's a big deal. And then we're also, as Elisa mentioned, we are evolving and modernizing and digitizing how we deliver training and support to our core members, really being responsive to this current generation and all of the learnings that we've had at Teach for America and outside of Teach for America. So we're doing that by leveraging research-based tools and learnings like the science of reading. We're doing that by actually providing them the mental health resources and supports that they need, especially in this moment. We are providing them digital access to resources like our platform in partnership with Better Lesson. And we've actually over the last year worked to retain and also hire more experienced and seasoned coaches to support them through their initial couple of years in the core. And so, you know, initial signs are pointing to real progress and momentum there too. Earlier this year, we had our first mid-year survey results after scaling this new program model across the country, our satisfaction results from our first and second year teachers. And along many dimensions, they are the highest they have been in a few years now. And so we're taking that as real evidence and indicators of progress, that we're on to something. We are in the business, as a lot of y'all know, of continuing to learn and iterate, so we're not gonna rest on our laurels, and so we're gonna continue to improve as we go, but we really believe that we're on to something that is ultimately gonna continue and accelerate the impact that we're having across the country.
That's a lot, y'all. Like, there is a lot going on. And what is most exciting for me in everything that you shared is this idea that we're doing all of that, not to say we did it, but to actually change the course of the experience of children. And so what's true and what's different for kids across the country on a path to like twice as many is all of this work that you're describing.
Barbara, I'm sorry. I just remembered one more thing that's super exciting that I want to share with everyone. And so Elisa explained a little bit more about our Ignite tutoring program. And that started during the pandemic, a real need that our executive director there, Katie Tennyson-Hooten at the time, saw as a need that our communities needed. And so the virtual tutoring, high dosage tutoring that we are providing in that one community during the pandemic has now grown to serve 28 of our communities across the country. And we are actually on track to continue to have stellar academic results with them, and be on a path to having 10,000 virtual tutors through our Ignite program by 2030, of which we anticipate nearly 1,000 of them will actually enter the core. So in terms of innovation, relevance, and also continuing to strengthen our core business, this is a new line of business for us, if you will, that is also feeding into our ability to grow our core. So I didn't want to forget to mention that.
I don't want you to forget to mention that. I think it's fantastic. And so if you think about it, not only are we showing up in classrooms day to day, but we also are showing up in communities in other ways, meeting a known need. So you all remember that like a pandemic happened and kids who were behind fell even further behind. This is immediately responsive to that. So again, to this idea of evolving, it is continuing the core business because we know we need that and figuring out those other places where we need to lean in. Thanks for sharing all of that. So what's on my mind, and I imagine on the minds of people in the audience, is that leading in this moment is tricky. I could say trickier than I found it to be at other points in my lifetime. And so leaders in mission-driven organizations are finding that things are more polarized than they've been in a long time, are finding that things are really difficult and a lot is changing. And so I'm curious what lessons the two of you would offer to other folks who are leading in similar contexts. What would you help them to be thoughtful about when it comes to how to lead through this moment, how to stay the course, and how to sustain, how to get to and then sustain impact? Because we're not doing this to look cute. Cute is cute, but they're kids whose lives are hanging in the balance and missions that matter. What would you offer them?
I would offer three things. Lead with hope, have a relentless pursuit of continuous improvement, and know who you're accountable to. On the first, we all know that hopelessness and complacency is the enemy of justice. And it is hard out there. And if you're close to kids in the classrooms, the acute challenges are real, and that is true. And our children need us to step up above that. We can do things together. We know a lot about what works. And I had the great privilege of listening to Ruby Bridges yesterday share her story. And she told us, her mandate was like, don't you dare be hopeless. You don't have the luxury to be hopeless. You stand on the shoulders of giants who were courageous, and what kept them alive was hope. And so they are counting on you to live into that legacy, and I think we have to remember that all the time, no matter how hard this gets. On the continuous improvement, because things are so polarized and hard, and we are taking on a challenge where there are not clear answers often. And so you will make mistakes. And so at Teach for America, part of our DNA has been just like a commitment to improve. And so ensuring that we are holding ourselves to a high standard, that we have all the evidence we can possibly get to make a decision, but make a decision and go and have a learning cycle where you know what's working, what's not, change, and be able to be in that kind of environment helps us all accelerate faster. And then third, know who you're accountable to. There is so much around us, so much noise, so much rhetoric, so much distraction. And so we have to ask, what are we accountable to at the end that helps us focus? So what I am sure of is that kids learning how to read and do math and being safe and having agency, those should not be partisan issues. And so our commitment is to be in relationship with students and families, be proximate and help that guide us and our choices, because that is what we are accountable to. And our ability to pierce through that has helped us stay focused and committed to our 2030 goal that is on a march to our commitment to one day.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with Elisa more, not surprisingly. And I'll just say that, being clear-eyed on our mission, our core values, and our core capabilities of sourcing, matching, and developing talent really helps us to stay clear-eyed and focused, undistracted, and relentless to be in the business about tearing down walls for kids and ensuring that we are recruiting and retaining and developing executive talent and leadership and talent at every level of the organization who are just as passionate as we are about ensuring that one day all children are able to attain an excellent education and to do so in a way that meets the moment, that they are able to adapt, to be flexible, and to sustain, especially in this moment when things are incredibly difficult and challenging to navigate and are hard. We are in the business of doing hard things at Teach for America, and we do them together, and to Elisa's point, with hope and with joy and with a relentless focus on our students.
Thank you. I want to thank them, and I want to thank you all for being here with us. As you move away from this space and into all the many things that you are doing on behalf of kids, remember that we are equally committed at Teach for America to being better, stronger, and smarter day in and day out. The more that we do that and commit to each other and commit to the things that you all offered in your lessons, the more likely we are to create some conditions we've never seen before. To build a world where every single child feels seen, heard, celebrated, supported, and challenged to make this incredibly wild world better than they found it. Thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world or anywhere at ASU+GSV, but you were here with us, and we're grateful that you invested in this way. Thank you.